how you been? I mean, how are you dealing with these times? How are you doing
Oof.
right now?
Um, I think as it probably is for most people, like some days are better than others. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I don't think anyone's here in like the emotional stability curve. No one's emotionally stable. Everyone has ups and downs. Everyone has good days and bad
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
We're all dealing with it as best as possible. Mostly, I'm like very fortunate that the only thing I have to deal with is like boredom and having to keep myself occupied, and I'm very privileged in that.
Right. Right. Um. So tell me, what are you doing nowadays? Because I have no idea what are you. What are
Yeah,
right? It's been so long for me and you
yeah, it
that
has. We haven't really kept up.
yeah, and I feel like I went through three childhoods, and then now I'm seeing you again. So,
hmm
what are you doing these days?
Not much of anything. I work at the U.S. Embassy here in El Salvador. It's not like it sounds way fancier than it actually is. I don't do anything special.
Do you have a job
I
title?
work in the I'm just the administrative assistant
Okay.
at the General Services Office.
Hey,
So
that's
it's
pretty good.
basically, yeah, it's not too bad. It's like the office that has all the internal services for all the embassy employees. So it's nothing like diplomatic or
Mm-hmm.
consular or anything. It's mostly like internal services, like office supplies, maintenance, cars, stuff
Okay,
like we make the embassy function,
I
kind of.
got you. But then
Yeah.
you also have something on the side. Like, is 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 Lavanda considered self-sustaining right now? Like, you guys?
I mean, right now during COVID, definitely not.
Right, right. But
uh, but I mean, I wouldn't call it self-sustained because all five of us in the band have our other jobs, like have our main jobs, and then Lavanda is something we do on our spare time. But during like high season, it's pretty good. It's a really nice source of secondary income. It's not too bad.
that's awesome. So it is a second source of secondary income.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
awesome.
I think there's a it's hard in El Salvador, like the
Oh
culture
yeah.
around live music.
Mm-hmm.
It's really complicated, um, and it shouldn't be this way. It's kind of backwards, but here, unfortunately, because of the culture, like cover bands do way better
Right.
than people making original music.
Hmm.
So La Banda is still mostly just doing covers, and we do like specials and stuff like that. So, and the idea that we're five women is really appealing to a lot of venues. So we do pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, sweet, sweet. So I know you, and I have a history with you, but for everyone that doesn't know you,
hmm
why don't you give us like the elevator pitch of like Ceci Gonzalez?
Oh wow. There isn't really much to say. My name is Cecilia Gonzalez. I'm born and raised in El Salvador, San Salvador, El Salvador. I'm 28. I um, I am a self-proclaimed nerd and geek. I really like video games. I really like music. I studied abroad, college in the States, like you did, and I came back around 6 years ago. And I work at the embassy, and I have a band on the side. And that's pretty much it.
All right, all right, that's pretty good. I think that was like less than a minute, but
Oh, I hope
of
so.
course, of course, we're gonna unpack everything as we go through this, and
hmm
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm really happy to have you here.
Mm.
I wish that I
I'm
could have
super happy
you.
to be here.
I wish that I could have you here, like right in
Yeah.
front of me, so I could give you a hug.
Yeah, I would. I think very fondly of our times during and shortly after high school, and it's really nice to be able to catch up because I've always wondered what you've been up to, and seeing this new project of yours has made me really excited and really happy for you.
Um, yeah, it's been a wild ride. I have to take myself seriously. I was actually thinking about this right before this podcast, right? Because I totally want this to be a playful thing,
hmm
but then I take myself so seriously sometimes, right? It's like, oh yeah,
hmm
I gotta prepare. Oh, I gotta I gotta, think 3 weeks in advance instead of 2 weeks like I'm doing right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just like every day there's this pressure on me, on myself, and sometimes there's a lot of anxiety. It's like, dude, are you really gonna fucking do this? Like,
Yeah. And I
it's
think
crazy.
the things that take most effort usually are the things that seem effortless.
Mm.
I think the most playful and like lighthearted things are usually the ones that take the most work. And it takes a lot of guts to just like throw yourself into this just because you love it and you want to do it. I really respect that.
Thank you so much. I mean, that those are very kind words coming from you. Let's talk about your day job, right?
Hmm.
Um, is that something that you look at it just a profession to get by, or is it something that you might invest more time in to progress later?
It's a tough layered question with a layered answer. I guess.
Uh-huh.
I think I think the one thing I've learned in my short 28 years of life is that life is unpredictable and will surprise you and sometimes disappoint you because that's just the way it works. Nothing really has meaning or purpose. And I think I think it's been especially difficult, um, like being what is would be considered like a gifted kid, like being good at school and having good grades and having all this potential future like placed on you,
Mm-hmm.
and causing that to like create certain expectations for yourself, and then having things not go as planned or not go in the way you thought they would be, and
Mm-hmm.
then having to sort of manage your expectations and be okay with the place you're in now. So I mean, if I'm like completely honest with you, being an administrative assistant at an office, like doing like calendar upkeep and like general like clerical tasks is not something that either fulfills me right now or that I thought I'd be doing if you would ask me about this, when I
Mm-hmm.
was 18, when we were, when we knew each other. I've been at this job for almost 5 years now, so that's a while.
Yeah.
I can't really say it's a temporary thing anymore after being on it for so long, but it's hard, man. El Salvador, like the job market or whatever, is difficult, and sometimes you have to make a choice between you know doing something that really fulfills you or doing something you want to do and having to starve for it, like having
Yeah. Yeah.
to grind for it, and then having something that maybe doesn't fulfill you intellectually in any way, but that is stable and has good benefits and is something that you can use to provide for your family.
Yeah. And I don't
So
think there's any shame in doing that, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, that's something that's been hard to come to terms with. But my dad died last year of college, halfway through my last year of college, and I had to graduate early and come back home to take care of my mom financially. And my mom's also, she's had health problems my whole life, but especially recently. So I had to make the choice, leave college where I was probably the happiest I've ever been, like personally, being in the States, being in a very liberal town, being far away from what can sometimes be a very stifling culture here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and making the choice to come back and providing, and like that's something I can take pride in,
Yeah, of course. That's
you know.
awesome. I mean, I think that's extremely brave of you, Ceci. I mean, to be honest, it's really humbling, and it's very respectable. There's when you said you had a lot of potential in high school. You were this kid that was gifted and had a lot of potential in high school, and you felt the pressure from it, right? You're
Yeah.
like you're like potential for what? I'm like a kid. I'm just like 18. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah,
And
especially with social media being as present as it is in our lives, it's really hard not to compare your life and your progress with others,
oh,
with your peers, with like
oh
the people we
yeah.
graduated with or people our age.
Yeah.
And it's really hard not to like constantly compare where you are compared to all these other people who are doing all these amazing things, or like traveling the world, or in their dream jobs, or like doing fucking whatever, you know? And it is so hard to keep in mind that we all have different timelines in our lives. Like we're not all
Oops.
moving at the same pace. We don't have the same road that we're following. And
Yeah, I mean, we're all playing different games, like because
yeah, and I feel like my priorities, or like what my heart's wishes or whatever, have changed, like especially in the last like couple years or so. You know, when I was a kid, I wanted, you know, like the super successful job. I wanted like a really nice house. I wanted to have some sort of prestige, professionally or whatever. And now, like, I'd be really happy with like a house and a yard where my dog can play,
right.
and like some fruit trees, and I'm set. Like that's really all I want.
How was growing up in El Salvador? Like, I want to know about your childhood. I never actually asked you about this.
It was okay. It was weird. I think I was in the like weird position of having access to all these like socially and economically privileged spaces. Like we went to a really elite school.
Elite is the
Uh,
right word.
yeah, yeah, and you know, I had a lot of like social capital and social privilege that goes with that. But you know, both my parents were unemployed, didn't have much money at all. I remember at least every year of high school, some years of middle school, like I would show up to the first day of class at school, and I wouldn't be allowed to go into class because my parents hadn't paid that year's like tuition or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd be like taken to a little office, and then have to wait for a couple of hours, and then my parents somehow magically managed to scrounge up the money needed to pay for my tuition or pay part of it or whatever. And
Yes.
then I'd be allowed to go into class, you know, and going to a school that was attended mostly by like upper class folks,
Hmm.
and not having that sort of like financial privilege myself was like a really weird experience. Um,
Yeah,
it was it
I
was it
bet.
was super weird.
So was school a big part of your upbringing?
I think I love school. If someone could just pay me to go to school for the rest of my life, like I'd be super happy. I think I was very very cognizant from an early age that if I wanted, like I knew that I wanted to get out of El Salvador. Like I knew that I wanted to go study abroad. I knew that I wanted more opportunities for myself than my parents had had. And I knew that my ticket out of El Salvador was academics, was
Hmm.
school.
Right.
Like it was something I was good at, and I knew that if I did well in school, it would potentially get me a scholarship or get me something that would allow me to seek my fortune elsewhere. I guess.
Right. Right. That's fucking crazy. How old were you when you think? How old do you think you were when you realized this?
So I think it was around 11 or 12 when I first realized that I wanted more than what my parents had had, or what was being offered to me just like straight out the bat.
I got you. I got you. 10 or 11
Yeah.
years old. That's pretty. That's I wouldn't say that's a normal 10-year-old thinking. Like that's pretty deep.
I think what happened at that time that made me realize this was they didn't have scholarships. Like Escuela Americana, where we went to, did not award scholarships for students to attend.
Right.
They would give each family 4 years of financial aid. They would help them for 4 years, and that was it. And then they would have to figure out what to do. So at that point, my parents used like 2 years of financial aid on my older brother. And when he graduated, they used 2 years of financial aid on my tuition when I was in like sixth or seventh grade. So when the 2 years were up, you know, my parents were like,
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, they went over to like the school administration, and we're like, we're going to have to pull her out of school because we can't afford this. And the school decided to create a merit-based financial aid system so that I could stay in school.
Just for you.
Like I was the first person. They did it for other students after, but like I
Okay.
was the
You were the
first person
pioneer.
that they did that for.
Gotcha.
And I think that maybe was a message to, like 11 or 12-year-old me, that it was something that made me like valuable in a certain sense. It was something that
Right.
that gave me agency in a way that I hadn't felt I had, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. So your upbringing was one where you were constantly wondering, oh, am I gonna be able to keep going to this school? Yeah. When you're a kid, school is almost, especially in around the circles that we grew up in. Did you have a life outside of school? Because school is very much every aspect of your life. Your
Everything.
friends.
We would
Uh,
spend like 8 hours of our day there,
right, and then
that
talking to your friends after that,
yeah, and then
from
like
school.
doing homework.
Yeah.
Everything was school.
Yeah.
Everything was school.
That's so weird. That must have been really anxious. That must be really anguishing.
Like I don't think I had the emotional tools to like identify
Right.
what I felt,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it definitely shaped me. I think that's why I'm so I have a lot of anxiety, and I deal with a lot of anxiety in my life, and not being in control is a serious source of anxiety for me.
Mm.
You
Being
know,
unstable, basically.
being unstable,
Yeah.
and I think I had to grow up a lot faster than the rest of our peers did, and sort of like take control
Oh, I mean,
of
you
of,
have
of my own
responsibilities
future.
with your family. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think it was all put in perspective for me living in a country with such a great incidence of poverty. It's like,
Mm.
oh, like my life is really not that bad. Like I'm
Right.
pretty good.
Yes.
My troubles are nothing compared to what other people
Yes.
here live with.
And that's definitely a source of peace of mind, because so many times you can just be caught in the thought of, oh, what am I doing with my life? Why do I even have this job? you know
Hmm.
why do sometimes you just complain about the things you have, right?
Hmm.
But then you just gotta breathe in, look at it with perspective, and think like
Yeah.
somebody else would love to be in my shoes right now.
it
That
doesn't it doesn't discount your struggles, and it doesn't mean like
No.
your pain or your suffering is meaningless, but like it's a really good exercise in gratitude to just like list the ways in which you're privileged.
Yeah. If I was a Buddha, of course I would be like super zen about it. About it. I'd be like, yeah, this is a lesson in life. But we're not. It takes years of practice to get to that state of mind, and we have these hard times.
I just think it's like really easy, at least for me, it's like really easy to like get focused on all the things that are bad, or like the things that are wrong or not working out the way I want them to be. And it's like really easy to just get stuck in this mindset of just feeling sorry for yourself, or just like feeling um like unsatisfied.
Of course.
So
For me, the most important thing, and it's kind of now, is being productive. And productivity
mhm,
is one of those things that is hard to define because it's very personal, right? You can set yourself a goal and
yeah,
make sure to accomplish it. It can be the smallest goal, and just
yeah,
like pick up that pen, you know, cause like, but imagine if what makes me really sad, I realized, or gives me a lot of anxiety, is not doing it, like setting myself,
yeah,
not being able to be productive, or setting myself goals, not picking up that pen and just leaving it on the floor, that kind of stuff.
absolutely, yeah.
And I guess what I was really asking was, what are the things that you are happy pursuing? There are some things that we have to do, but there are other things that we're just happy pursuing. We're just like things
Hmm.
that don't need to get done, that we just do it because it makes us happy. So like, what is that for you?
Wow. Um,
Like in your day to day, right? It doesn't have
yeah,
to be
like
something
video
big.
video games are definitely one of those things. I think they bring me a lot of joy. So I didn't drop out of school, but I left early, so I didn't finish my last semester. I already had enough credits to graduate, and I was just doing my last semester for fun, like taking
Mhm.
classes that I wanted to take instead of classes that I needed to. But I never got to finish them because I had to come back home. So I was gonna take, or was halfway through taking like this really cool coding class. I really liked it, like the 2 weeks that I was in it, and it left like a tiny little hole in my heart that I never was able to fully pursue it, because it was something that I was really enjoying.
Got you.
So I've gotten an online class on coding and programming that I've been like slowly taking. Like that's been it's been really nice to get back into like learning something, because it brings me happiness. So that's been something that's been fun to do too.
Oh, you said you like playing video games. What kind of video games are you into?
Zelda has always been one of my like favorite games of all time, and I'd been dying to play Breath of the Wild, so I finally got able to do that.
Yeah, which
And
is
I just
for people who are not into video games, that game is like the quintessential game that you have to have in the 21st century. Okay.
yeah,
Like, you have to
that's
have
a
played
good way to
it.
describe it.
Like even my wife, who doesn't like video games at all, would sit and watch me play that game. Okay.
But yeah, I really like games that make me feel things. Like I really like games that take me on a journey and teach me things. I really liked Celeste.
Oh,
Celeste was
I
a really good
literally
game.
was gonna just mention Celeste because you
Yeah,
said you like games that
make you feel
make
things.
you feel things.
Oh
My
boy,
god.
yes.
Whew, I like maybe shed a tear or two,
Yeah. Oh, for
like,
sure.
and that moment where you have to balance the feather just to
Yeah.
control your breathing, it brings me
Yeah.
back to like moments in life where I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. I literally stopped and replayed that part and had my girlfriend watch, because I was like, if you want to know what anxiety is and like what it feels like that's it.
Yeah,
Just watch that.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
The animations make
It's
you
gorgeous.
take you through a roller coaster of emotions.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And
awesome.
it's such an amazing metaphor for like anxiety and depression.
That's why I love gaming, to be honest. That's why.
Me too. Yeah. I think it's the best form of storytelling. Like honestly.
I have a real battle because this obviously I think video games in general can be so destructive to somebody's life. but I find so much joy in them, and I don't even know what to say about people who whose life get wasted away playing video games, because
I mean, there's so many things in life that are destructive to us. Everything in excess is destructive. Everything. There's all different sorts of addictions and like excesses that causes pain and damage. But used correctly and used in a healthy way, I think literally everyone's lives can be improved by video games in
right,
so
by
many ways.
playing a little bit, not even just
Yeah.
video games. Yeah.
For me, like the real value that video games have is their ability to tell stories in a way that no other storytelling medium has. There's
Right.
there's no other medium that allows you to like actually live through whatever story you're going through. And I think in terms of like the emotional benefit that can have towards people, I think it's incalculable. Even in terms of like general culture and like general society, in terms of improving human rights and like decreasing discrimination and prejudice, there's one way we do it, which is through activism and through passing laws that protect people and all that stuff. But at the same time, parallel to doing that and offering protection, you have to change cultural norms in like society and the way we think.
The culture,
and the way we
even pop
yeah,
culture. Right.
Exactly. And the way we do that is through pop culture, like increasing representation in movies of non-white people, non-straight people, non-cis people, increasing representation and showing that these people are humans that deserve to have their stories told. Like that's the way we change culture, by exposing people to different stories.
Yeah, when
and
you say that,
that's what video games can do.
Video games have become an aspect of our culture, and I think it's not going to stop there. I think the kids from future generations are going to invest themselves twice as much. I always wonder, like, I grew up thinking that we're touching back on what potential really meant to you when you were growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I grew up thinking that a job was, like that when you would become an adult, you had to have a job that somebody told you it was like a real job. I think that there's many ways to create your own path or your own job in that sense. And when kids
Mm-hmm.
these days are look to, do you know who Booga is? Booga is like, I think he's 14 right now, but it's the 13-year-old who won the the Fortnite World Cup.
Okay.
Okay, and he won like $10 million or something like that, right?
Jesus.
Insane. Like Fortnite.
I need to get into this whole like competitive video gaming thing. Seriously.
Fortnite has become such it has been embraced by the younger generation so much that it has such pull that this kid is basically, like a superstar now.
Yeah.
And making millions of dollars.
And he's 14.
Yeah, and he's like, when you're 7 or when you're 8, and you see somebody like that.
Yeah.
That's 13, like their perspective must be so different than mine, that when I was growing up and video games were literally like, stop wasting your life.
A waste of time.
Yeah, stop wasting your life away, right? Okay, transition. I'm so surprised that when you said when I asked you what kind of things are you enjoying to do, you didn't say like playing performing live music. Is that something that you see more like as is that something that you see more as your job as well?
No, I think I absolutely enjoy playing music, and it's definitely something that brings me a lot of well-being and all that stuff. I just think I have such a like complicated relationship with this creative side of me, I guess, and I always have. It's always something I've really struggled with. I think I've always had a really hard time creating things and feeling good about the things that I make. And I think if I were to list my flaws or my shortcomings, I think that's like probably the number one thing, is that I prevent myself from doing things or from trying things because I don't think I'll be good at it, or I don't think or like I don't like the outcome, or it's not perfect the first time I do it. So obviously I suck at it. Yeah. If I don't do it perfectly the first time. To do with like self-esteem, it has a lot to do with like self-image and self-worth, and I think I've always really struggled with that in music and just art in general.
But how does this affect your music?
It affects music in the way that like I feel like I want to throw myself in an attempt to make something original, like attempt to make something my own, but that I just don't have the guts to do it. It's just.
Are you afraid that you don't have like this what it takes, basically?
And it's ridiculous because I could make something and never show it to anybody, like nothing is stopping me from just playing guitar. Like literally I have nothing to lose by doing that.
It's such it's weird because I not the answer that I was expecting when I asked you that question. It's just, so when you perform, right? You obviously get the enjoyment of it though. Yeah, like I love performing. It's such a fun way to spend my nights. It's so nice to get to do something that is just so much fun, over and over again. Like, absolutely. Yeah, you get to be in touch with like this side of you. I think musicians have access to this moment in the human condition where they could express themselves in a way that nobody really else can. But when I asked you that question, you went completely to the opposite side. It's something that's hard to talk about because it's something that I'm still like wrestling with, coming to terms with it, and like having to deal with it, and just like facing this part of me. But it's like this idea that
like I'm not, like it's not worth it, you know, like I'm not that good. Like what I do is not that great, you know. Yeah, sure, I play guitar in a band, but like whatever. That's not
Yeah.
something that
I
matters.
yeah. I think I have Ceci, I have so much to say about that because I totally understand where you're coming from, especially me doing this, especially me being right now in this medium, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It took so much time for me to get over one thing. Nobody gives a shit, right? And if somebody gives
Yeah.
a shit, somebody gives a shit, who gives a shit? you know? It's
Exactly.
there's no other way I could put it more simply. Because I think that at the end of the day, whatever you put out there as as an artist, nothing's gonna be ever perfect. Even like when even like my first podcast, I was so scared of putting it out there.
Yeah.
I'm still scared today of things that I say in these podcasts, and then it's like, oh, why do I sound so stupid? But then I think about it, and then I'm just like, oh no, you can do something about it. And just because you made this shit, you actually put it out there, you can actually see yourself and say, oh, I want to be better than this. The idea of the idea of being a musician, right, is never an idea until you act upon it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a very successful musician. I think you're an amazing female guitarist, and I think that you can be you're focused enough and you're creative enough to embark on a journey that's hard. I think if you I think that if that's what you want to do, and that's one of the things that you're most afraid of, you should definitely fucking go for it. Because like, and I relate to that so much because I'm doing this right now. So like, the best thing I could just say is like, you're gonna find the most happiness doing the things that
Yeah.
you're postponing. You're like that in the back of your mind. You're like, oh, I need to do this, but I'm not going. Like, I haven't done it.
Yeah.
Like, those are the
No,
things
that's
that are going to like give you drive, or like that are gonna make you discover yourself.
You know what it is, and this is something like, thank you so much, Gabo, for everything you're saying, because it's really like helping me sort of understand this a little bit better.
Because
And I think I spent so much of my life being responsible, you know, like doing what's right and doing what's responsible,
yes,
that I think sometimes you kind of like internalize the idea that you don't deserve to seek the things out, to seek out the things that make you happy.
yeah, I mean, definitely you could.
You know?
Of course, I've definitely heard of people who don't think they deserve happiness, but so many people can get caught up in just being responsible and not focusing on the things that they should.
Yeah, and like losing focus of the things that actually fulfill them and like make them
In a
bring them
way,
joy.
I think that was me like a year ago or 2 years ago.
I think we all find ourselves in that position at least once in our lives.
And even when you describe like the podcast and how brave I am, to me,
it doesn't feel that way.
On this side, it's just like the reality is so simple, right? The reality,
yeah,
because we internalize all these things that we see and think about them and how they affect us personally. I might be wasting my time doing this. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, this might reach like 100 people, but it might not be anything.
You're screaming out into the void.
Yes, but my point being is like, am I afraid of that? I'm definitely afraid of that. I definitely am, but I'm afraid more of my previous life.
Yeah.
I'm afraid more of being in that other life where I wasn't doing this, and I was just focusing completely on something that I don't necessarily, just was paying the bills. I'm afraid more of the life that I was living before than the challenges that this life might bring, right? I would wake up with anxiety thinking like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? You know, like
Yeah.
I'm literally spending like 9 hours of my day like making other people, rich people, richer. You know?
Just
And then
another cog in the machine.
it would just be so client driven. Like the client could say like, "Oh, scrap this thing," you know. And it's imagine being an artist and painting, like spending 1,000 hours painting this amazing mural, and then some guy with money comes and he's like, "No, actually, I don't like this little corner of it. You know, can we just like scrap the whole thing?"
Scrap the whole thing.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What has my life become? You know. So
that sounds terrible.
There was a big aspect of that how I got through these days was like listening to podcasts and looking, and when I had downtimes, like watching some gaming streams, and I just thought like that would be so cool, you know, like that sounds so much
I've
fun.
always thought so. Yeah.
You know,
that's
so
just all I want to do.
And when I was thinking this, there was also thoughts of me thinking like, oh, you're not good enough to do this, you know, like those people have done it all their lives, and it's really just me.
Exactly it. That's
you
exactly
know, like,
it.
Comparing myself, being like, oh, you don't have this, they do, and therefore you cannot reach these goals, right?
Exactly.
When you see somebody that's very successful, it's unattainable, you know. And you can get so caught up thinking that you just forget that I think life is very simple in a way. You just have to work hard at the things that you want, you know, and like so many people are attest to that. So like the only way to do it, you know, is hard work. So and the more you think about, oh, this is unattainable, oh, like if I had that, oh, if I would have started sooner, you're just like delaying your own success. You can get so impatient because you see what success is, right? I see as a gaming streamer, I see Shroud and he has like 6,000 viewers, and I think of the days that I'm like, oh, I just wish I had 10. You can get so caught up in that you forget that you have to do all those steps, all the steps, and it don't take a while. It might take like 4 years, 5 years. But if you actually start now, then you're gonna be able to be there. Like it's not a miracle, you know. Like if other people have done it, what are the chances that you can do it yourself? I don't. It's weird because I don't want to be the expert on like that kind of message of like being like I just want to tell the stories, right? I just want to tell the stories of you because I think that because of like this exact same feeling, we forget how normal people live their lives, or how there are heroes that we never hear about. You know, like you literally left school, like, and then but you had to come back because you had to be a hero for your mom. Like you had to be that hero, and there's in so many ways like we don't talk about those stories. You know, we don't talk about them. So I guess I'm trying to transition to like, what is the dream? Because like we're talking about these things that that we're trying to pursue, but what is it that we're talking about? Like, and please be as unfiltered as you can. Like, if you want to be like a rock star, just tell me you want to be a rock star. You know, like.
My raw answer to what my dream is, I think that like the things that if I close my eyes and fantasize about, you know, is like have an impact on the world that is greater than myself. Like I want so badly to make the world a better place. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how I can do that, but like either decrease suffering or increase joy in people to the max of my abilities. Like that's what I would like to do. The thing that like keeps going through my mind is like, man, I'm not having as big of an impact as I would like to be having, you know?
I think in so many ways you are super hard on yourself, Ceci. I think
Yeah, and again, it's like, and I have, I've had an impact on other people's lives.
I think
I
you
do
have.
consider it a success that I've been.
I think you have. In my life, just to tell you, in my life, I have had so much joy watching you guys play, and like, and I didn't
Yeah,
go
we did
just
have
for
really good
you.
times.
I didn't go just for you. I enjoyed because I had a good time watching you guys. I and
Yeah,
and
it was a good time.
and I mean, I don't have to explain. My drunk stories are self-explanatory of how much joy we would have watching your band, and also attest to that is the fact that you guys like keep getting booked. I think you have done a lot, but I love the fact that you want more. Even now, you're helping a lot of people just by playing music, just by going out there and giving everybody the juice that is music. Like hyping everyone up. Isn't that what it is? Like when you go out there
No, yeah, you're right.
and you're in a bar and somebody plays that song that you love, you go fucking nuts. You're like girls start to
Yeah,
woo.
yeah.
Guys start to like scream. And you're there. I think that's awesome. Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
I definitely want to create more. I definitely want to create more. I think my dream is if I can just stop being so afraid to just do whatever. I think my biggest enemy is my own fear, and I think if
Oh
I
yeah.
can if I can let go of that fear the way you have. I mean, and not to say that you're not scared, that you're not
No,
afraid.
no.
Like I'm sure you're afraid all the time
I
because
am.
you're a normal
I am.
human being, but you continue despite that fear.
Yes, and the
And for
only
me,
reason I
like,
do
I
that.
haven't been able to.
Yeah, but I don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on it. What's the creative process around behind making covers? Like, do you guys literally just
Um,
adapt it or do you guys think, oh no, maybe we should change this part, make it a little bit more modern? Um,
mhm.
right?
No, yeah, it's definitely like that. Like we'll pick a song, listen to it, and like everyone learns the basic parts, but then when we put it together as a band, definitely like things change and evolve and come out to make it a little bit different than the original.
Do you think you guys have a specific style of like twisting them songs?
You know what's funny is I think the five of us have such different tastes in music. Like I think the five of us all have such different sounds that we like
Mm-hmm.
that they all come together in like this really weird way that's kind of hard to pinpoint because I think our style is just so malleable because all of us like so many different types of music
Mm-hmm.
that it always sounds different every time. Stuff.
So it's Lavanda something. It's more like a way to just hang out with your friends and have a good time.
I think primarily it is.
Right.
I mean, we do take it very seriously and we do treat it as a job in the sense of, taking responsibility
You have
for
to
it.
be
But
professional at some level.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
but I
we
do
can be
think that
Paul
what makes
Darty,
us,
and
yeah, but I do think what makes us stand out so much and why we're so successful and like why we have such a large fan base in El Salvador is because we're friends and like that is at the forefront of what we are as a band is the fact that we enjoy each other's company and that we have fun doing it.
right.
And we aren't just doing it for like the money or for whatever. Like we're doing it because we're friends.
I mean, I love
Mm-hmm.
Lavanda, and I know I think the only person I don't know is the latest singer, but Maru and Andy
Mm-hmm.
and you. Yeah, and I have a lot of cool memories with you guys. In some way, I always felt like it made me feel so because you guys would play at bars and stuff that that every so often, and those bars would actually get
Mm-hmm.
filled up, and
Mm-hmm.
it made me feel so VIP sometimes when you guys would just stop playing and come back and hang out like on our table. It's like, yeah, the band members are
Yeah,
hanging
we
out
were
with
pretty
me.
cool back then.
Just like I put my arm around somebody that's on the band.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was such good times, and
It really was.
How did you guys end up getting together?
Oh, well, I met the band through Susie, who was our first singer, who you probably remember.
Yeah, I
She
remember
was
seeing her.
friends. I met her through our other friend Chamba, and we would hang out a lot. And she's the one who connected me with Maru and Andy because they were starting a band and they needed a guitar player. And that's it. The rest is history. We just got together and everything clicked.
I mean, I think that's amazing. I mean, you're saying it like it's like this colloquial, like casual thing that just happened, but it's like, no, it was 5 girls that somehow managed to click together and make this awesome cover band.
And like Maru, Andy, and Susie, they were with the idea of starting a girl band, so they were looking for a girl guitarist,
right?
Which at that moment there weren't many of.
Why do you think that was? Why did they think they wanted to do an only girl band? It's like, fuck.
Because there wasn't, there weren't any that we knew of. There weren't any like publicly known all female bands or female musicians.
So in a way, it was just like you wanted to be the first, kind of.
Yeah, not even the first. Just we wanted to do it, and it was a concept that we hadn't seen anywhere else, and it felt important, so we did it.
Interesting. It's like, fuck you guys. Fuck guys. We don't want you in our band.
Fuck guys.
No.
Don't need you.
I think it's always like kind of amazing how bands meet, because it's such a random set of people. It could be such a random set of people, you know? It's like, oh, we need a guitar player. And it's like, I've been in so many bands, you know, in my life. I also played guitar back when I was younger, and I've been in so many bands where it's like, oh, we need a bass player, and it's like, well, I can learn to play bass.
Yeah. Like you can have a band that is comprised of all amazing musicians, like they're all like fucking amazing, but there's no spark. Like they're not connecting, they're not communicating, they're just like playing notes.
Right.
And you can tell when that's missing. And
even the greatest of bands, I feel like Queen, if you see the movie, like they were a fucking mess.
Yeah.
You know? Like it's so awesome to hear you say like, yeah, none of us like hate each other.
Yeah.
But we still...
Or like, you know, Fleetwood Mac making Rumors. They wanted to rip each other's throats off while making that record, and they made one of the most like amazing pop records in history.
Yeah. And
they hated each other.
So how did you end up learning guitar? Like
my dad played guitar. My dad had this like really, really pretty acoustic guitar that he bought with like his first paycheck when he was like 15 years old. And he wasn't like an amazing guitar player. He never took classes or anything. He just did it because he loved it. But he always had his guitar in the house, and he would play for me and would let me play on it every once in a while. So that's how it was instilled in me, is like my dad played guitar and I liked playing with him. And then I just kind of like took it up by myself.
Did you self-learn it? Did you ever have a teacher?
No, I've never taken a class. It was all self-taught.
That's awesome.
Mostly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans for the future, like as Lavanda or
Yeah.
Like what's next for you guys?
I think with this whole quarantine thing, it's been an interesting time because we've had to stop. We can't get together to rehearse. Like we haven't played together since like early February, I think. Like we haven't seen each other.
Yeah.
So that's been difficult.
Though I've seen your remote sessions, your remote live sessions. They're really good. They're really good.
They're a lot of fun. So that's what we've been doing.
Also, your new singer is tip top.
Yeah, isn't she just the best?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been interesting because it's it's forced us to be creative with the ways in which we're making music right now, right? And like the ways we can stay connected. So we've been doing that, and because we have all this downtime that we can't go out or anything, we're starting to try and collaborate and share ideas for original music, taking the opportunity that we have nothing else to do,
Right.
you know, because I think most of the struggle for us has been that whenever because we, like I said, we all have our independent jobs, we all have
Yes.
you know other things in our lives other than the band. It's very hard for us to get together and just focus on original music, because we're always having to like come up with new material, like learn new songs to be able to have fresh songs to play at venues. So right now is like, because we're not playing every weekend and having to learn new songs for that, it's like giving us an opportunity to try and focus.
That's awesome.
Like internally.
So maybe when I talk to you next year, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see.
There'll be a Lavanda original song.
Yeah, maybe.
And I would totally be down to promote it here.
Great, thank you.
You heard it here first, motherfuckers. If somebody wants to see what Lavanda is about, where would they want to go?
Oh, definitely go to our Instagram page. We're Lavanda, LAVANDASV. We're posting all our remote live sessions there. We're doing them once a week, and we post like clips of live shows and pictures and all that stuff. And we're pretty active on Instagram or Facebook, any of those things. It's all the same handle. Great.
All right, Ceci, let's wrap this up.
All right.
I had such an awesome time with you, Ceci, and thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for reaching out. This has been wonderful and like super enlightening for me too. This has been great.
I just think when it comes to podcasts right now, I try to put it out and forget about it.
just let it go.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening in. This has been the Player versus Life podcast, Ceci style. Check her band because it's awesome. And if you're in San Salvador,
hit me up.
Yeah, check them out. When the quarantine's over, make sure to go.
Don't come now.
Go to the venues. And I had an awesome time watching them when I was growing up. I'm sure they're still awesome. All right, thanks everyone. I'm tuning out. Bye bye.